The arrival of the plague. Across the galaxy, the story of the virus spread faster than light itself, for it was not a natural disease but something engineered with intent and hatred. And once released, it did not simply infect it, transformed entire civilizations into twisted reflections of what they once were. Worlds that once thrived with color and song were reduced to silence in a matter of weeks, because the virus mutated within each species differently, causing grotesque changes that crippled societies and toppled empires. The Galactic Council called it the Scourge, and in hushed tones some called it the end, because wherever it arrived it left only chaos and ruin. In the first year 5 star systems fell. The proud Tyrell with their crystalline cities saw their people turned into mindless husks, their bodies warped until even their mothers could not recognize them. The Korath, who had mastered genetic science, could not stop their bones from splintering under their own weight. Even the mighty Drexen warlords who had fought wars across 100 systems screamed in despair as their bodies melted under the touch of the Scourge. The council met in great halls heavy with silence because no cure existed and no defense held. The pattern was cruel and undeniable. Every species faced collapse once the Scourge touched their worlds. The virus shifted itself faster than any cure could be designed, and worse, it carried a mocking intelligence as if it chose mutations most devastating to its host. Civilizations that had stood for millennia were erased in months, and those who survived often begged for death. Fear gripped the stars, and all eyes turned toward Earth, not because humanity was powerful, but because they were next in line. Whispers filled the chambers of the council. Some argued Earth should be destroyed before the Scourge arrived because, if it spread through humanity, it might unlock even more terrible mutations. Others scoffed, saying that humans were fragile compared to most species and would be crushed by the virus as quickly as anyone else. But curiosity and arrogance combined, and the council decided to watch. They would not intervene. They would simply observe as humanity fell, just as all others had fallen. When the first traces of the virus reached Earth, the panic was immediate. News channels screamed warnings while scientists raced to understand what they faced. In hospitals across the planet, patients began to show symptoms: fever and weakness, trembling and collapse. People prepared for the end of their world. In orbit, alien observers stationed themselves in secret, recording the unfolding tragedy. To them, Earth was nothing more than another experiment, another inevitable downfall. But something strange happened in those early weeks. The patients did not transform into grotesque abominations like the Drexen, or lose their sanity like the Korath. Instead, many stabilized after the initial illness. Their fevers broke and their bodies adjusted in ways that baffled every test. Cells that should have been corrupted were instead reshaped into healthier, stronger forms. Blood samples showed immune systems rewriting themselves at a speed never seen before. A doctor in New York held a vial of human blood under the microscope and whispered in disbelief that it was not dying, it was adapting. In orbit, the alien observers watched the first survivors leave hospitals, walking steadily with brighter eyes and stronger steps than before. At first they dismissed it as chance, but as days passed, the numbers grew. Humanity was not collapsing, it was changing. And for the first time since the virus had been unleashed, a question rippled across the galaxy. A question that carried both hope and fear. What if humans did not fall? What if they absorbed the Scourge instead? Humanity's first exposure. The Galactic Council gathered once more in their vast chamber of cold stone and steel, their voices rising in disbelief as reports streamed in from Earth. The data was undeniable. Humanity was not collapsing in agony, nor mutating into broken creatures. They were surviving. And even more disturbing, they seemed to be improving. The alien envoys read the reports with shaking hands because they knew the Scourge had never behaved this way before. In every other species, it had been a sentence of extinction. But here it was, rewriting human biology as if Earth itself had whispered a secret command into the virus and bent it to its will. On Earth, fear still lingered, in every home. Families locked their doors expecting the worst, but then stories began to spread that gave them courage. A miner in Chile who had collapsed deep underground was carried out by his co-workers, but when he woke 2 days later, he not only recovered, but could work with strength far greater than before, lifting heavy tools with ease. A child in Nigeria who was infected showed no outward sickness at all, But within her blood, the virus fused with her immune system, making her body resistant to other diseases that had plagued her since birth. These were not isolated cases, they were happening across every continent. Hospitals became battlegrounds of confusion and awe. Doctors who had prepared themselves to watch their patients die now saw people standing stronger than they had ever been. Scientists burned midnight oil, studying samples in frantic effort to understand. Theories formed quickly. Some said humanity's chaotic genetic history gave them an advantage, their bloodlines a mixture of resilience forged over countless centuries of disease and hardship. Others said it was something deeper, something the galaxy did not understand, a hidden trait within humanity that allowed them to absorb what should have destroyed them. The Council feared what this meant. If humans could adapt to the scourge, then they were no longer a fragile young race to be guided or ignored. They were becoming something unpredictable. Voices in the chamber grew sharp with arguments. Some demanded Earth be quarantined immediately, lest this adaptation turn them into a threat more terrifying than the virus itself. Others whispered that humanity might be the galaxy's only hope, a key to a cure hidden in their blood. But fear outweighed reason for most, and fear always turned into suspicion. On Earth, governments struggled with their own decisions. Should they hide their growing strength from the galaxy or reveal it in hopes of cooperation? Leaders debated in secret rooms, while outside ordinary people began to feel the difference in themselves. Soldiers who had been infected noticed sharper reflexes, as though time slowed when danger appeared. Scientists discovered that human neural pathways were firing faster, giving some individuals flashes of insight they could not explain. Even farmers in the fields felt endurance beyond normal limits, working longer hours without exhaustion. Humanity was unknowingly stepping into a new chapter of its existence. The aliens watching from orbit sent their final report to the Council with a single line written at the end. Humanity has not resisted the scourge. Humanity has consumed it. That sentence spread like wildfire across star systems, filling the galaxy with dread, because the virus that had brought ruin to every other race was now the fuel for something new. What that something was, none could predict, but whispers grew in every dark corridor of power. The humans were changing, and the galaxy would never be the same. The impossible adaptation. The first undeniable proof of humanity's transformation came when the Council received footage smuggled from a research station orbiting Mars. A small group of infected humans had been placed under strict observation, their vital signs recorded every second, and their behaviors carefully monitored. The scientists who expected screaming or mutation instead witnessed calm growth. Muscles grew denser, bones fortified, skin thickened. Yet there were no disfigurements, only enhancements that made the humans look stronger, more vibrant and alive than ever before. What disturbed the alien researchers the most was that these changes were consistent across individuals, something no other species had achieved for every other race. The virus produced chaos, but in humans it produced balance, as if their biology was designed to absorb instability and turn it into strength. On Earth, whispers turned to awe as stories of resilience spread like fire through every city and village. Firefighters in California walked into burning buildings without protective gear and emerged unscathed, their lungs resisting the smoke, their bodies enduring the heat. Climbers in the Himalayas infected with the scourge reached higher peaks without oxygen, laughing at altitudes that once brought death. Soldiers in Europe reported recovering from injuries in hours rather than weeks, while children in Asia displayed memory retention beyond any recorded levels, reciting books after a single reading. The virus, which had broken empires across the stars, was now gifting humanity with abilities that no science had ever predicted. The Galactic Council struggled to contain the truth, but information has a way of escaping even the tightest walls. Merchants whispered of it in hidden trade routes. Mercenaries boasted of seeing humans recover from fatal wounds. Diplomats sent coded messages home warning that Earth could no longer be treated as a minor world. For some, the news brought hope that perhaps a cure might be found if humans shared their secret. But for many others, it bred fear, because if humans were absorbing the scourge, then what would stop them from becoming the galaxy's most dominant force? Among humanity, the reaction was divided. Some believed this was a gift of destiny, that Earth had finally been recognized as special among the stars. Others trembled at the unknown, for while many grew stronger, Some experienced strange visions and dreams of vast landscapes and alien voices, as if the virus carried more than mutation, as if it carried memory from civilizations it had destroyed. A scientist in Geneva recorded patients who claimed to see glimpses of alien worlds they had never visited and battles they had never fought. The possibility that the virus carried imprints of the dead haunted every researcher, yet none could deny the power it now gave. One moment shifted everything. A group of soldiers stationed at a United Nations facility in South America were attacked by a faction of alien mercenaries secretly hired to test humanity's new strength. The aliens expected an easy victory, but instead the soldiers moved with impossible speed and precision, bullets avoided as if time slowed muscles, enduring wounds that should have crippled them. The battle lasted less than an hour, and every alien invader was captured alive. When questioned, one mercenary gasped in disbelief, saying they fought as if they had become something more than mortal, something even machines could not match. The Council received the report in silence, and for the first time in centuries the chamber was filled not with arrogance, but with unease. Humanity had not only survived the scourge, they had turned it into an ally. Across the galaxy, rulers and generals began to prepare for a future they had never imagined, a future where the weakest species had risen to stand above them all. Humanity was no longer a question of survival. It was now a question of control, and the galaxy understood too late that a new power was awakening on the edge of the stars. Fear of a new species. The chambers of the Galactic Council were filled with voices that trembled between panic and fury as delegates from countless worlds shouted over one another. Some demanded Earth be cut off from every trade route and isolated behind a wall of fleets, while others argued that humanity should be destroyed outright before their adaptation spread even further. The oldest members of the Council, who had lived through centuries of crises, admitted in whispers that they had never seen anything like this. The scourge had been created as a weapon to wipe out resistance across the stars, but instead, it had given rise to something unpredictable and possibly unstoppable. The thought that humanity had not only survived but grown stronger made many leaders shake with fear. On Earth, the people themselves began to realize that their survival had altered the balance of power across the galaxy. News broadcasts shared footage of soldiers lifting vehicles from wreckage with bare hands, of scientists working for days without rest, and of children solving problems that had baffled computers. At first, the world was united in awe, but soon division appeared as governments argued about how to use this new strength. Some leaders demanded secrecy so humanity could prepare in silence, while others pushed for open declaration that Earth was now beyond the reach of alien threats. Among the common people, excitement mixed with unease, for while many celebrated their resilience, others wondered what price they would pay for carrying within themselves the remnants of a plague that had destroyed so many. Rumors spread quickly among the alien races watching from afar. Traders spoke of human blood being worth more than gold, of mercenary companies trying to capture even a single human subject alive, of entire fleets whispering that Earth was breeding a new kind of warrior. In the shadows, darker plans took shape. Certain factions within the Council plotted to send assassins and strike teams to Earth to end the danger before it fully matured, but others feared such an act would only provoke retaliation that none could withstand. The galaxy had lived for ages with clear hierarchies of power, but humanity's unexpected rise cracked the order like glass under strain. The humans themselves responded with characteristic defiance. Soldiers volunteered for experimental units, eager to test their new abilities. Scientists declared that the virus was no longer an invader but part of their evolution. The people of Earth, who had once looked at the stars with wonder, now began to look at them with ambition. Across the planet, monuments were lit with messages of survival carved in steel and stone. Humanity had faced the galaxy's deadliest weapon and emerged transformed. The phrase "we adapt or we die" spread through cities and villages until it became a chant that echoed in every corner of the Earth. The Council's fear deepened when reports arrived that human fleets had begun training exercises unlike anything seen before. Pilots flew ships beyond expected limits. Their reflexes, enhanced by the scourge adaptation, engineers built weapons that responded to human nervous systems as if alive, and commanders spoke of strategies so fluid that artificial intelligence could not predict them. To the galaxy, it looked as if Earth was preparing for something greater than defense. It looked like preparation for dominance. The alien historians tried to find comparisons in their records, but nothing fit. This was not just survival. This was transformation. The species that had been considered fragile and reckless was now rewriting the destiny of the stars. Whispers of a new title began to circulate among alien tongues, a title spoken with both awe and dread. They are not human anymore. They said they are becoming something else, something the galaxy may not be able to stop. And as the council argued and plotted in endless circles, Earth looked outward with new eyes, knowing that the age of fear was ending, and the age of humanity was only beginning. Humanity strikes back. The strike against Earth came without warning, launched by factions within the Galactic Council, who feared that waiting any longer would only give humanity more time to grow. A fleet of mercenary ships funded in secret slipped into the solar system under the cover of darkness, their weapons charged and ready to burn the blue planet to ash. They expected panic. They expected to see humans scatter like prey, as countless other species had done when the scourge first consumed them. Instead, they found Earth watching the stars with steady eyes, already prepared for the inevitable attack. The first wave of plasma fire rained down upon orbital defenses, but the human crews moved with impossible precision, intercepting every shot with counterfire and shields that had been modified to react faster than alien targeting systems. Pilots and newly designed fighters darted through space with reflexes enhanced by their altered biology, their ships almost dancing as they turned battles into flowing movements that left mercenary gunners blind. One alien commander screamed through the comms that the humans were moving like predators who could see seconds ahead in time, and before his words ended, his ship was torn apart by coordinated fire from vessels that seemed to anticipate every maneuver. On the ground, human soldiers faced boarding parties that crashed into military stations and cities. The invaders expected confusion, but what they met was silence, followed by overwhelming force. Men and women rose from cover with eyes burning with focus, their bodies absorbing wounds that should have ended them, their muscles driving forward with endurance beyond reason. Blades shattered against their skin, bullets lodged only to be pushed out as wounds closed in moments. The battlefield became a place of terror for the attackers, because every fallen human stood back up stronger than before, as if the scourge had given them an unending reservoir of survival. In South America, a squad of mercenaries armed with heavy exosuits stormed a compound only to be met by a single platoon of humans who tore through the steel frames, with bare hands ripping weapons apart and breaking reinforced armor as though it were clay. In orbit near the moon, a group of human marines launched themselves from damaged ships with nothing but magnetic boots and rifles, and yet they carved their way through enemy vessels in close quarters, combat their movements so precise that alien officers later claimed it felt like fighting against shadows that could not be hit. The galaxy received the news within hours, and panic spread wider than any battlefield. If humanity had only defended itself, it would have been impressive enough. But the truth was worse. The humans had not only resisted, they had hunted their attackers with ruthless efficiency. Entire mercenary fleets surrendered not because they had been destroyed, but because they feared being annihilated if they continued. Interrogations revealed that the attackers believed they had been fighting not mortals, but beings shaped into something beyond comprehension. Back in the council chambers, silence reigned as reports were read aloud. The delegates understood that a line had been crossed. The humans were no longer victims or survivors, they were warriors who had proven that the scourge had become their weapon. Old powers trembled at the realization that Earth had not only adapted, but had claimed dominance in open combat. The phrase that echoed across the stars was whispered in both fear and admiration: humanity strikes back. And on Earth, the people stood, united, no longer looking at themselves as fragile, but as the inheritors of something greater. Their blood carried both the memory of extinction and the promise of survival. Their voices rose together in defiance against the galaxy that once watched them as weak. They had been tested by the worst weapon ever unleashed, and they had turned it into the foundation of their strength. The universe was beginning to understand that the age of human submission had ended and the era of human ascendancy had begun. The turning point. The defeat of the mercenary fleets should have been enough to silence the galaxy, but instead, It created something far more dangerous than fear. It created obsession. The Galactic Council split into factions. One group demanded immediate negotiations, hoping humanity would share the secret of their adaptation, while another faction demanded total extermination before humans grew beyond control. Armies that once fought among themselves now paused their wars to focus on a single question: what would humanity become if left unchecked? The answer frightened them, because no one could deny the evidence humanity was not only surviving, they were advancing at a pace that outstripped centuries of alien science. On Earth, the changes grew impossible to ignore. Entire divisions of soldiers trained day and night, displaying abilities that bordered on the supernatural. Some could sprint for hours without fatigue. Others could see in near darkness or hear the faintest sound across a battlefield. Medics discovered that injuries which once required months of recovery now healed in days and in some cases hours. Researchers noted cognitive leaps as well. Mathematicians solved equations that had baffled alien scholars for generations, and engineers created weapons that seemed to think alongside their wielders. It was as though the scourge had awakened a hidden potential buried deep within the human species. In orbit, massive training exercises were broadcast across secure channels, but nothing stayed hidden for long. Aliens watched in horror as human pilots pushed their ships beyond safe thresholds, yet never faltered, their reflexes outpacing computer guidance systems. Simulated battles ended in record times, with humans defeating fleets twice their number. One alien observer described them as predators, not soldiers moving with purpose and coordination, as if they were extensions of a single mind. The phrase spread quickly across the stars. They are no longer individuals, they are one force. Rumors of these feats sparked unrest among alien populations. Citizens demanded to know why their leaders feared a species that was offering no attack beyond defending itself. Some began to see humanity as a symbol of hope, believing that if the scourge could be turned into strength, then perhaps their own species might be saved through cooperation. But the ruling elites saw only danger. If humans shared their blood freely, entire armies of enhanced warriors could rise and shatter the balance of power forever. And so the council plotted in silence, their plans hidden behind speeches of unity, while their fleets gathered in secret staging grounds. Yet even within the council there were those who began to question the wisdom of opposing Earth. A few bold delegates proposed open talks, arguing that humanity might be the key to curing the scourge for all. They reminded their peers that extinction loomed for many species still fighting outbreaks across the galaxy. But their voices were drowned beneath the roar of fear, because fear has always been stronger than reason. The majority did not want cooperation, they wanted control, and they were willing to gamble everything to achieve it. Meanwhile, humanity watched all of this unfold with a clarity sharpened by their transformation. They understood the galaxy no longer saw them as equals, but as a threat to be managed or destroyed. And so Earth prepared not only to defend, but to strike if necessary. In the halls of their governments and the depths of their secret bases, a single truth was spoken over and over again. The turning point had come, and humanity would not bend. If the galaxy chose war, humanity would answer not as prey, but as the predator the scourge had created. The revelation and the end. The fleets of the Galactic Council gathered in the cold void beyond Jupiter. Their formation, a wall of steel and fire, meant to bring Earth to its knees. The combined power of dozens of civilizations stood ready with weapons that had leveled worlds and silenced rebellions. Their commanders believed humanity could not possibly face such force, yet beneath their confidence lingered unease, for they had all seen what humans had done to the mercenary fleets, and they wondered if this would truly end as expected. The humans, however, did not wait for the Council to strike first. From Earth rose ships unlike any that had flown before, their hulls crafted with alien technology, but refined by human minds, their systems fused with the neural speed of pilots whose reflexes now surpassed machine code. When the fleets clashed, the galaxy witnessed a spectacle never recorded in history. Human ships wove through enemy fire as if guided by instinct, their weapons striking with precision that no algorithm could predict. Entire enemy squadrons were dismantled in minutes, and for every human vessel destroyed, 3 more of the Council fell in return. Yet the true horror for the aliens was not the destruction, but the resilience of their enemy. Human soldiers boarded alien capital ships, cutting through corridors in close combat, their bodies enduring wounds that would kill any other being. They fought not as reckless berserkers, but as calm predators with unity and discipline sharpened to perfection. The virus that once brought ruin had given them an ability to adapt to every tactic within moments. The council commanders changed strategies mid-battle only to find the humans already shifting in response, as if they had rehearsed every possibility long before. The war that was meant to break humanity instead revealed what the galaxy had feared most, that the Scourge had created not victims, but conquerors. As the battle turned against them, the council leaders sent desperate calls for ceasefire, but by then Earth had already achieved what it needed. Human forces disabled the flagship of the council and captured its command chamber. In that moment, humanity revealed the truth not with weapons, but with words. The captured delegates were shown the research humanity had hidden until then, proof that they could not only survive the Scourge but cure it. Samples were displayed, cures synthesized from human blood, and treatments that reversed the mutations ravaging other species. The revelation struck the delegates harder than any weapon because the humans held not just the power of destruction, but the power of salvation. The choice was offered with clear terms. Humanity would share the cure freely, but the age of humanity being treated as weak or expendable was finished. No longer would Earth sit as a minor world under the shadow of greater empires. From that day forward, humanity would stand as a central power of the galaxy, equal to any council or empire. The delegates looked into the eyes of their captors and saw no arrogance, only certainty. The humans were not asking for permission, they were declaring a new order. News of the cure spread as quickly as the news of the battle. Across dying worlds, hope returned, and for the first time in generations there was a path to survival. Yet along with hope came understanding that the galaxy had changed forever. The Scourge had been meant to enslave, but in humanity it had created something beyond comprehension. They had consumed the weapon and turned it into their strength. The galaxy realized too late that a new apex species had emerged not by conquest alone, but by evolution itself. On Earth, celebrations filled the skies. As ships returned victorious, families embraced their warriors, scientists raised the cure to the stars, and leaders declared the dawn of a new era. The phrase repeated in every language was simple and unshakable. Humanity has endured. Humanity has risen, humanity will lead. And, in the quiet that followed as the galaxy adjusted to the new balance, one truth remained carved forever into the memory of every species. The virus that destroyed all others had created humanity's ascension, and nothing would ever reverse it. Humanity transcends. The galaxy had prepared for the fall of Earth, but instead it witnessed the birth of something beyond its understanding. The fleets that surrounded the solar system had carried the pride of countless empires, yet all their strength crumbled before the relentless adaptation of humanity. What no weapon or strategy could achieve, the Scourge had done by accident. It had awakened a force hidden deep within the human spirit. Every battle became a demonstration not of resistance but of transformation, and the galaxy realized with a chill that humanity was no longer simply surviving. It was becoming something greater. When the last council flagship was seized, the surviving leaders stood in silence as they faced the humans who had fought with unshakable unity. In their eyes, the delegates saw no rage, no cruelty, only an unbending will sharpened by struggle. Humanity revealed that within their blood lay the key to ending the Scourge forever. Samples of the cure were shown, living proof that what had destroyed worlds could be reversed and healed. In that chamber, the council saw the truth: humanity held the power of life and death, and they were offering life but on their own terms. Across the stars, dying civilizations heard the message. The cure spread from world to world, carried by human hands, and wherever it arrived, despair was replaced with hope. Yet along with gratitude came fear, for those who received the gift understood that it came from a species unlike any other, a species that had taken the weapon of extinction and turned it into the seed of dominance. No empire, no council, no dynasty could erase that truth. The age of humanity had begun not through conquest but through inevitability. With celebration as lights filled the night and voices shouted the chant that had carried them through their darkest hour. We adapt or we die. Families embraced warriors. Scientists wept as they watched Alien. Children cured of horrors that had once been thought permanent, and leaders declared that humanity had risen beyond the grasp of fate. From every corner of the planet came the same truth: humanity would never again bow to fear or to foreign rule. They had been tested, and in that test they had discovered their place among the stars. The galaxy whispered a new name for them: not survivors, not predators, not saviors alone, but the inheritors of fire. They had taken death and turned it into strength. They had taken despair and turned it into hope. And in doing so, they had claimed a future none could deny. And in the silence that followed the final battle, one truth echoed across every world, a truth carried in the hearts of friend and foe alike. Humanity has transcended the end.